The golden halls of the Imperial Palace on Centauri Prime buzzed with unusual activity. Admiral James Marcus stood at the massive observation window, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he watched the endless stream of ships moving through the capital's atmosphere. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Empire had ruled these stars without challenge. But today felt different. "Admiral." A young officer hurried into the room, his boots clicking against the polished floor. "The long-range sensors have detected something unusual." Marcus turned slowly, his decorated uniform reflecting the light of the three suns setting outside. "Define unusual, Lieutenant." "A fleet, sir, approaching from the unexplored regions." "But," the officer hesitated, "their drive signatures are primitive. Almost ancient by our standards." Marcus raised an eyebrow. In his 30 years of service, he had never encountered a species foolish enough to approach the Imperial capital with anything less than cutting-edge technology. "Show me." The lieutenant activated the holographic display in the center of the room. A sea of red dots appeared, moving in perfect formation. Marcus frowned. Primitive drives or not, that level of coordination was impressive. "How many ships?" he asked. "Initial count suggests over 10,000 vessels, sir, but the readings are confused. Some ships appear to be changing size." Marcus dismissed the notion. "Sensor malfunction. No known technology can alter a ship's mass in real time." He was about to order a diagnostic when another officer burst into the room. "Admiral, a single ship has broken from the formation. It's requesting landing clearance. They claim to be human." "Human." Marcus tested the unfamiliar word. "Species classification." "Unknown, sir. They're not in our database." This was becoming more interesting by the minute. "Grant them clearance, but activate all defense systems. I want a full battalion ready at the landing pad." The small diplomatic vessel that landed was unimpressive. It bore no weapons, no advanced shielding, and looked more like a cargo hauler than a proper spacecraft. The boarding ramp lowered with a hiss, releasing a cloud of steam. A single figure walked down. The being looked remarkably similar to the Empire's own species, save for slightly different facial features and lighter bone structure. It wore simple black clothing without any obvious protection or technology. "I am Thomas West," the human announced in perfect Imperial standard, surprising everyone present. "I carry a message for your Imperial Council." Marcus stepped forward. "The Council doesn't grant audiences to unknown species, especially those who approach our capital with a war fleet." The human's face remained neutral. "You'll want to hear this message, Admiral. It concerns the colony you destroyed 6 months ago." A murmur ran through the gathered soldiers. Marcus's face hardened. "We destroy many illegal settlements. You'll have to be more specific." "New Eden," Thomas said quietly. "A peaceful farming world. Population 30,000. Men, women, children. All gone in a single day because they refused to immediately submit to Imperial rule." Marcus remembered now. A routine expansion operation. The settlers had been warned. Imperial law was absolute. They were given a choice. "No," Thomas's voice carried across the landing pad. "You gave them an ultimatum. Submit or die. That's not a choice, Admiral. That's tyranny." The human reached into his pocket, making every soldier raise their weapons. He slowly withdrew a small holographic projector. "This is why we're here." The device activated, showing images of the colony's destruction. The Imperial warships firing on civilian structures. The desperate attempts to evacuate. The final explosion that turned the settlement into a crater. These images were transmitted to Earth, our homeworld, by the only ship that escaped. "We've spent the last 6 months deliberating our response." Thomas's eyes met Marcus's. "The fleet you see approaching isn't just a war fleet, Admiral. We call it the Annihilation Fleet. 10,000 ships, built in secret over centuries, waiting for the day we'd encounter a force like yours." Marcus laughed. Your ships use outdated drive systems. Our technology is centuries ahead of yours." Thomas smiled for the first time. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Are you certain about that, Admiral? Are you willing to bet your empire on it?" He turned to leave, then paused at the foot of his ship's ramp. "We request an audience with the Imperial Council. To discuss terms, you have one standard day to decide. After that," he glanced at the sky, "well, I suggest you watch the fleet closely. You might learn something about appearances being deceiving." The human ship departed, leaving a deeply troubled Admiral Marcus staring at the stars. Something about Thomas's confidence disturbed him. The Empire had ruled for 10,000 years. They had crushed countless civilizations, some far more advanced than these humans appeared to be. So why did he feel, for the first time in his career, a cold shiver of fear? 6 months earlier, the human colony of New Eden was celebrating its 10th harvest. Golden wheat fields stretched across rolling hills, and 3 moons hung in the purple sky. Children played in the streets of the main settlement while their parents prepared for the harvest festival. John Miller, the colony's head of security, stood on the observation platform of the defense tower. 10 years of peace had made his job easy, perhaps too easy. He sipped his morning coffee, watching the sunrise paint the wheat fields in shades of gold. "Sir," a young operator burst into the room. "Multiple ships just appeared at the edge of our system." John nearly dropped his cup. In 10 years, no ship had ever visited New Eden. They weren't even supposed to be on any star charts. He rushed to the scanner display. 15 vessels, the operator reported. Massive ones. Nothing like our ships. "Send the first contact greeting package," John ordered. It was a standard procedure they'd practiced but never used. "And alert the governor." The Imperial ships were beautiful in a terrifying way. Their golden hulls stretched for miles, covered in strange patterns that seemed to move in the starlight. They took position around the planet with practiced precision. Governor Lisa Brown stood in the colony's main square, surrounded by her advisors. The massive screens above showed the approaching ships. "Are they receiving our greeting?" "They're responding," John said, checking his tablet. "But this can't be right." The message was simple and cold. "This planet is now property of the Galactic Empire. Submit to Imperial rule immediately or face extinction. You have 1 hour to decide." "There must be some mistake," Lisa said. "We need to explain that we're peaceful colonists. Open a direct channel." The face that appeared on the screens made everyone gasp. The alien looked almost human, but with sharp, angular features and eyes that glowed faintly. "I am Commander Rex of the Imperial Expansion Fleet. Your time is running out." Lisa stepped forward. "Commander, we are peaceful settlers. We claim no empire or military might. Surely we can discuss this reasonably." "The Empire does not discuss," Rex replied. "We command. Your technology level is primitive. Your defenses are negligible. You will submit to Imperial rule and accept our governors, or you will be eliminated." "We have children here," Lisa pleaded. "Families. We've built homes." "Surely." 45 minutes remaining. Rex cut her off. "The Empire's word is law." The Colony Council gathered in the emergency bunker. Options were limited. Their ships were few and designed for cargo transport. The colony's weapons were meant for wildlife defense, not space combat. "We can't just give up everything we've built," one council member argued. "We can't fight those ships," another countered. John studied the tactical display. There might be a third option. The maintenance tunnels under the North Fields connect to the emergency hangar. If we start a quiet evacuation now. But they never got the chance to fully implement any plan. At the 50-minute mark, the Imperial ships opened fire. The colony's shield, designed for atmospheric storms, shattered in seconds. Golden beams of energy sliced through buildings like paper. The wheat fields, the pride of New Eden, burned. "Get everyone to the tunnels," John shouted over the chaos. He watched in horror as the main square, where children had played just hours ago, vanished in a flash of light. One ship, an old cargo vessel named Hope's Light, managed to reach the emergency hangar. As Imperial weapons turned the colony into ash, Captain Robert packed it with as many survivors as it could hold. "We can't save everyone," he said, tears streaming down his face as he watched families being turned away from the overcrowded ship. "But we can make sure Earth knows what happened here." The Hope's Light escaped using the planet's third moon for cover. As they fled into deep space, the survivors watched their home disappear in a final massive explosion that cracked the planet's crust. What the Empire didn't know, what even most of the colonists didn't know, was that Hope's Light carried more than just survivors. It carried detailed scans of the Imperial ships, their weapon signatures, and their tactical patterns. The Empire had meant to teach humanity a lesson about submission. Instead, they had given Earth exactly what it needed: proof that the galaxy was hostile, and the technology they would need to fight back. As Hope's Light entered faster than light travel, Captain Robert made a promise to the stars. "We'll be back," he whispered. "And next time, we won't be helpless." Deep within the asteroid belt of Earth's solar system, inside a hollowed-out space rock designated as Base Omega, General Robert stood before the World Council. The massive screens behind him showed the final moments of New Eden's destruction. "The Empire has finally shown its face," he said, his voice echoing in the carved chamber. "Everything we feared, everything we prepared for, has proven true." The council members sat in grim silence. For 300 years, humanity had maintained a public image of being focused only on their solar system, appearing to progress at a normal technological pace. But that had been the greatest deception in human history. "Show them," ordered the council leader. General Robert pressed a button. The chamber's walls turned transparent, revealing the true scale of humanity's preparation. They were inside one of thousands of hollowed-out asteroids, each containing a piece of what would become the Annihilation fleet. "Project Phoenix," Robert explained, "started by our ancestors who feared this exact scenario. While we sent out small colony ships using old technology, we built this in secret." The view shifted to show an enormous shipyard. Workers in spacesuits moved around a vessel unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. Its hull was made of overlapping plates that could shift and change configuration. At its heart was an artificial star, contained in quantum fields. "Every ship in our fleet," Robert continued, "has been built with a single purpose: to match and exceed Imperial technology. We learned from history. Every civilization that openly displayed its advancement was eventually conquered or destroyed by the Empire." One council member stood up. "The colonists of New Eden, they didn't know about any of this." "No," Robert replied quietly. "Only a handful of people on each colony knew the truth. The fewer who knew, the safer the secret. The captain of Hope's Light was one of our agents. His mission, if the worst happened, was to gather intelligence on Imperial capabilities." The screens changed to show detailed scans of Imperial weapons, shields, and drive systems. "Their technology is advanced, but predictable. They haven't faced a real challenge in thousands of years. They've stopped innovating." Another council member spoke up. "How many ships do we have?" 10,000 primary vessels, each capable of splitting into 10 smaller craft. Our ships don't just look primitive from the outside. They're designed to appear that way. The Empire's scans will show outdated drive signatures and basic weapon systems. Reality is different." The view changed again, showing massive construction bays where ships were receiving their final upgrades. Earth's moon came into view, revealing that its entire dark side had been converted into a shipyard, hidden from Earth's view for centuries. "Every crater on the dark side of the moon is a launch bay," Robert explained. "Every large asteroid in our system either contains a shipyard or is itself a ship. We've had 300 years to prepare, using technology we kept hidden from any possible observation." "And our weapons?" asked the council leader. Robert's expression hardened. "Things the Empire can't imagine. They think energy weapons are the peak of technology. We've developed systems that turn their own weapons against them. Quantum shields that adapt to any attack. Ships that can change their physical structure mid-battle. He paused, letting the information sink in. But our greatest weapon is this. They don't know. They think they're facing a primitive species that barely understands space travel. By the time they realize the truth, it will be too late. The Council voted unanimously. After 3 centuries of preparation, it was time to unveil humanity's true power. How long until the fleet is ready? The Council leader asked. 24 hours, Robert replied. We've maintained every ship at 99% readiness for the past 50 years. We can launch everything within a day. As the council session ended, Robert walked to the observation deck. Below him, thousands of workers were making final preparations. Ships were powering up their artificial stars, testing their morphing hulls, and running final system checks. He thought about New Eden, about the families who died there. The Empire thought they had taught humanity a lesson about submission. Instead, they had given humanity the final excuse it needed to unveil 300 years of hidden technological advancement. Send the signal, he ordered. All ships prepare for launch. Operation Phoenix begins now. Throughout the solar system, hidden bases came to life. The dark side of the moon began to glow as ships powered up. Asteroids split open, revealing the warships hidden inside. Humanity's greatest deception was coming to an end. The Empire was about to learn that appearances could be deceiving, very deceiving indeed. Admiral Marcus stood in the Imperial Palace's main control room, surrounded by senior officers. The massive display showed the approaching human fleet, still using what appeared to be primitive drive systems. The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. This would be a simple matter of showing these upstarts the true power of the Empire. "Sir," an officer called out, "the human fleet is dropping out of faster-than-light travel." The room fell silent as 10,000 ships appeared at the edge of the Centauri system. At first, they looked exactly as the scans had shown. Bulky, primitive vessels with obvious engine ports and basic weapon mounts. Then everything changed. The outer shell of each human ship began to move. What looked like crude armor plates shifted and transformed. The ships seemed to turn inside out, revealing sleek, advanced vessels hidden within the primitive exteriors. Each one glowed with the power of a contained star at its core. "Impossible," Marcus whispered. But the surprises weren't over. The largest human vessel, nearly the size of a small moon, suddenly split apart. Its outer layers peeled back like a blooming flower, and 100 smaller ships emerged from within. Then another large ship did the same, and another. "New scan readings coming in," an officer shouted, his voice cracking. "Their power signatures, they're off the scale. Each ship appears to be powered by an artificial star." Marcus grabbed the communication console. "This is Admiral Marcus to all Imperial ships. Battle stations. This is not a drill." The Imperial capital's defense fleet scrambled to respond. 5,000 golden warships, the pride of the Empire's navy, moved to intercept the human fleet. They had never been defeated in 10,000 years. A transmission cut through all Imperial channels. Thomas West's face appeared on every screen. "This is your final chance for peaceful resolution," he announced. "The Imperial Council has 1 hour to agree to negotiations." Marcus slammed his fist on the console. "Open fire. Show these primitives the power of the Empire." The Imperial ships launched their attack. Beams of golden energy, powerful enough to crack planets, shot toward the human fleet. But the humans had been waiting for this. Their ships' outer layers shifted again. The surfaces became mirror smooth, and the Imperial weapons reflected back at their own ships. Golden beams bounced between the vessels, creating a web of destructive energy. "Impossible," Marcus shouted again. "No technology can reflect energy weapons." The human ships began to move. They didn't turn or rotate like normal vessels. Instead, they seemed to flow like liquid metal, changing shape to avoid Imperial fire. What looked like solid hull plates rippled and morphed, making the ships impossible to target. "Sir," another officer called out, "they're smaller ships. They're moving faster than our targeting systems can track." Marcus watched in horror as human vessels flowed around Imperial fire like water around rocks. Not a single human ship had been hit, while dozens of Imperial vessels had been struck by their own reflected weapons. Thomas West's voice came through again. "That was a demonstration, a small taste of what humanity has been preparing for centuries. While you thought we were primitive settlers, we were building technologies you never imagined possible." As if to emphasize his point, several human ships suddenly vanished, only to reappear inside the Imperial formation. They hadn't used faster-than-light drives. They had simply shifted location, as if space itself meant nothing to them. "My God," one of Marcus's officers whispered, "what are we fighting?" The human ships now surrounded the Imperial capital. Their mirrored surfaces reflected the system's 3 suns, making them look like stars themselves. The largest vessels opened like flowers again, revealing not more ships, but massive devices of unknown purpose. "Admiral Marcus," Thomas said, his voice calm but firm, "your sensors should now be detecting our real weapon systems powering up. I suggest you contact the Imperial Council, explain what you're seeing, and remind them they have 53 minutes left to agree to negotiations." Marcus stared at the tactical display. In just 7 minutes, the humans had completely outmaneuvered the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. No shots fired, no ships lost. But the message was clear. The Empire wasn't fighting primitives. They were facing an enemy that had spent centuries preparing for this exact moment. And they weren't even showing their full power yet. The Imperial Council refused to negotiate. Their pride, built over 10,000 years of unopposed rule, wouldn't allow them to bow to what they still saw as primitives. Admiral Marcus received his orders with a heavy heart. "Destroy the human fleet at any cost. Launch everything we have," he commanded. "All ships, all weapons." The Imperial Armada was a sight to behold. 10,000 years of warfare had produced ships that could shatter planets. Their golden hulls gleamed as they moved into attack formation, energy weapons charging with enough power to vaporize moons. On the bridge of the human flagship Phoenix, General Robert watched calmly. "They're doing exactly what we expected," he said to his crew. 3 centuries of studying their tactics tells us they only know how to attack head-on." The Imperial fleet fired. Thousands of energy beams lit up space like new stars being born. The raw power would have destroyed any normal enemy fleet instantly. But humanity was prepared. "Execute Battle Plan 1, Robert ordered. The human ships suddenly split apart. What looked like single vessels became clouds of smaller craft, each moving with impossible speed. The Imperial energy beams passed harmlessly through the gaps, missing every target. Their 2 spread out. Marcus shouted on his bridge, "Concentrate fire." But the humans weren't finished. Their ships began to spin, creating what looked like mirrors in space. The Imperial weapons reflected back, not randomly, but with precise aim. Each reflected beam struck an Imperial ship's weak point, guided by centuries of studying Imperial ship designs. "Quantum shield data collected," reported a human officer. "Their weapon frequencies are locked in. Activating countermeasures." The next wave of Imperial fire hit the human ships directly. But instead of destruction, something amazing happened. The human ships absorbed the energy, their hulls glowing brighter and brighter. "Return their power," Robert commanded. The absorbed energy shot back at the Imperial fleet, but transformed. Where there had been energy beams, now there were strange distortions in space itself. Imperial ships caught in these distortions found their own systems turning against them. "What's happening?" Marcus demanded as his fleet began to fail. Ship after ship reported the same thing. Their power plants were shutting down, their weapons wouldn't fire, and their shields had turned inward. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were turning Imperial technology itself into a weapon. "This is impossible." An Imperial commander shouted over the comm. "They're using laws of physics we don't even understand." Robert allowed himself a small smile. "Show them the gravity dancers." Small, fast human ships began to move in complex patterns. Wherever they went, Imperial ships found themselves pulled out of formation. The humans had mastered gravity itself, using it as both weapon and shield. Marcus watched in horror as his perfect formation fell apart. The humans didn't just counter every Imperial tactic, they seemed to know them in advance. 3 centuries of preparation had given humanity an understanding of Imperial warfare that went beyond anything the Empire had imagined. "Sir," an Imperial officer called out, "Their ships, they're combining." The scattered human vessels began to flow together like liquid metal. Small ships merged into larger ones, creating new configurations that Imperial sensors couldn't understand. What had been thousands of small targets became hundreds of massive ones, each powered by multiple artificial stars. Final warning. Thomas West's voice came through on all channels. "Your weapons can't hurt us. Your shields can't stop us. We've spent 300 years learning every weakness in Imperial technology." As if to prove his point, a single human ship approached the Imperial flagship. It shifted shape, flowing around every shot fired at it. When it reached firing range, it didn't attack. Instead, it simply shut down every system on the Imperial vessel, leaving them floating helplessly in space. "We could destroy your entire fleet," Thomas continued. "But unlike you, we don't kill needlessly. Power down your weapons, or we'll power them down for you. You have 5 minutes to decide." Admiral Marcus looked at his tactical display. Half his fleet was already dead in space, their own weapons and power plants turned against them. The other half was scattered, their perfect formations broken by the humans' gravity control. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Imperial fleet faced not just defeat, but complete helplessness. The Empire had finally met its match, and it wasn't even a fair fight. The Imperial Council met in their emergency bunker deep beneath the capital city. For the first time in 10,000 years, fear filled the Golden Chamber. The humans had disabled half their fleet without destroying a single ship. "Activate the planet killers," the High Counselor ordered, his voice trembling. "All of them." Throughout the Imperial space, massive weapons platforms emerged from hidden locations. Each one was the size of a small moon, designed for a single purpose: to destroy entire solar systems. They were the Empire's ultimate weapons, never before needed in battle. On the human flagship, General Robert received the warning from their deep space sensors. "Right on schedule," he said. "They're exactly as predictable as our ancestors thought they would be." The planet killers powered up. Energy gathered at their cores, building to levels that could crack planets like eggs. The Empire had built 12 of these weapons over 10,000 years. Today, they activated all of them. "This is your final warning, humans," the High Counselor broadcast across all channels. "Surrender, or we will destroy not just your fleet, but your entire species." Thomas West's response was unexpected. He laughed. The planet killers fired. Beams of pure destruction, each powerful enough to shatter worlds, shot toward the human fleet. For a moment, space itself seemed to bend around the weapon's power. "Activate the dimensional anchors," Robert ordered calmly. Small devices detached from each human ship, forming a complex web in space. As the planet killer beams approached, something strange happened. The energy didn't hit anything. Instead, it vanished, as if it had never existed. "What?" the High Counselor demanded. "What is happening?" "Did you really think," Thomas replied, "that in 300 years of preparation, we wouldn't find a way to counter your greatest weapons? The dimensional anchors redirect energy between dimensions. Your planet killers are now powering our ships instead." The Empire unleashed everything they had. Ships hidden in other star systems jumped in. Secret weapons platforms revealed themselves. Experimental weapons, too dangerous to use normally, were activated. But the humans were ready for all of it. Imperial reinforcements found their jump points redirected, emerging far from the battle. Experimental weapons backfired, their unstable energy contained and redirected by human technology. Every secret weapon, every hidden asset, every desperate measure, the humans had planned for them all. How? Admiral Marcus demanded. How could you know all our secrets? Because we've been watching, Thomas explained. For 300 years, we've had stealth ships studying your empire. Every weapon, every tactic, every secret installation. We know more about your military than you do. The news spread across Imperial space. Other species, long oppressed by the Empire, began to rise up. They had watched the battle broadcasts. They had seen the invincible Empire brought to its knees. Sir, a human officer called to General Robert. We're receiving transmissions from 50 different species. They're offering to join our cause. The Imperial Council watched in horror as their 10,000-year-old empire began to crumble. Ships from their own fleet began powering down, their crews surrendering rather than face the hopeless battle. You don't understand what you're doing, the High Counselor warned. The Empire maintains order. Without us, the galaxy will fall into chaos. No, Thomas replied. The galaxy will be free, and humanity will make sure no empire ever threatens that freedom again. The planet killers made one final attempt to fire. This time, the human ships didn't just redirect their energy. They took control of the weapons themselves, using the Empire's own technology to shut them down permanently. The Empire has a choice, General Robert announced to all channels. Surrender and face justice for your crimes, or lose everything. We don't want to destroy you. Unlike you, we understand the value of mercy. The battle had turned into something bigger. Across the galaxy, thousands of years of Imperial control were ending. The humans hadn't just brought a powerful fleet, they had brought hope to countless oppressed species. In the Imperial Council chamber, the High Counselor looked at the tactical displays showing his empire falling apart. Everything they had built, every weapon they had created, every tactic they had perfected, all of it had been countered by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. They had one final card to play, but even the Council feared it might already be too late. The Imperial Council's final weapon wasn't a weapon at all. Deep within the capital world's core, a hidden device began to power up. It was the source of the Empire's technological advantage, a machine that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. If we can't rule the galaxy, the High Counselor declared, we will tear it apart. But as the device activated, something unexpected happened. Nothing. The machine, the Empire's greatest secret, didn't respond. General Robert's image appeared in the council chamber. Looking for this, behind him floated a familiar device, the real machine. We removed it 3 months ago and replaced it with a replica. Did you really think we wouldn't find it? The council chamber fell silent. 10,000 years of secrets, all exposed. Their final hope, taken before the battle even began. How? The High Counselor whispered. Thomas West stepped forward, now standing in the council chamber in person. Because humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our patience. For 300 years, we watched. We learned. We prepared. Screens activated around the chamber, showing evidence of Imperial atrocities across thousands of years. Peaceful species destroyed, worlds stripped bare, civilizations enslaved, all in the name of Imperial order. But we're not here for revenge, Thomas continued. We're here to build something new. Outside, the human fleet had transformed again. The warships shifted, turning into massive construction platforms. Where weapons had been, now there were tools for rebuilding. Your empire is over, General Robert announced to the galaxy. But this isn't an ending. It's a beginning. Representatives from 50 alien species appeared via hologram in the council chamber. Former enemies of the Empire, victims of their expansion, all united now under humanity's protection. Humanity offers the galaxy a choice, Thomas declared. Not an ultimatum like you gave us at New Eden. A real choice. Join us in building a galactic federation where all species have equal voice, where technology serves freedom instead of oppression. The High Counselor looked around his chamber, seeing 10,000 years of history coming to an end. And if we refuse, then you'll live peacefully on your homeworld, watched but free, until you're ready to join galactic society as equals. We're not conquerors. We're guardians. Across Imperial space, human ships helped liberated worlds rebuild. The technology that had seemed so terrifying in battle now served to repair and restore. Ships that could manipulate gravity helped rebuild shattered planets. Energy absorption systems cleaned up environmental damage from Imperial mining. There's one more thing you should know, Thomas said to the Council. Earth wasn't the only human world watching you. We have colonies in 1,000 hidden systems, all as advanced as we are. Humanity split itself into two parts, the visible and the hidden. New Eden was part of our visible presence, meant to maintain our cover. The Council finally understood the full scope of humanity's deception. While the Empire had watched their primitive colonies and dismissed them as weak, an entire hidden civilization had grown in the shadows. The Age of Empires is over, General Robert announced to the galaxy. The Age of Cooperation begins. One by one, former Imperial worlds pledged themselves to the new Federation. The human fleet, no longer needed for war, transformed into a peacekeeping force. Their advanced technology, developed in secret for centuries, now served to protect the weak rather than destroy the strong. In the ruins of New Eden, a memorial rose, not to mark humanity's victory, but to remind the galaxy of the price of tyranny and the power of preparation. The empire that had ruled for 10,000 years faded into history, replaced by something new, something better. And humanity, the species that had hidden its true power for centuries, finally revealed its greatest secret. They had never wanted to rule the galaxy. They had only wanted to free it. Remember this day, Thomas told the former council as Federation peacekeepers took them into custody. Not as the day your empire fell, but as the day the galaxy rose from its shadow. The day we all learned that true power isn't about destruction, it's about protection. Above the Imperial capital, now the Federation capital, the human ships stood guard. Their mirrored surfaces reflected the light of 3 suns, no longer a sign of war, but a promise of peace. The galaxy was free, and humanity would make sure it stayed that way.